During the debate over sending American stimulus checks that happened both during the election and, of course, following the election in the midst of COVID-19, conservatives were pretty openly hostile to the idea of sending families another stimulus check. So now, of course, these were one-time stimulus checks. Now, the first one, $1,200, was way back during the first coronavirus stimulus package that was passed under Donald Trump. So now Republicans didn't want to do that, but they also needed to do something because their donors, their hair was on fire. And so, yes, they allowed that $1,200 one-time stimulus check to be able to pass through. Following that, though, Mitch McConnell and the rest of the Republican caucus were not at all interested in sending checks, whereas Donald Trump did feign interest, mainly because he was fighting for re-election. So now McConnell's offers, his counter offers, included no stimulus checks for Americans. And as such, the Biden administration had to use budget reconciliation in order to get their COVID bill passed. So this was, of course, the $1,400 checks. Again, there was a $600 check that was passed at the end of the Trump administration as well. So now, again, McConnell only previously allowed that $600 one-time stimulus check in order to help Donald Trump's campaign, but no more. So the reason I'm giving you this context and kind of going through a brief history is because basically I want to show you that Republicans despise the idea of sending Americans money during a pandemic of all things. Okay. And while the $1,400 under Biden was definitely not enough, it actually ended up doing quite a bit of good. In fact, according to a new analysis by the Census Bureau, they know that the two latest rounds of aid significantly improved Americans' ability to buy food, pay household bills, and also reduce their anxiety and depression, with the largest benefits going to the poorest households, and those with children. Among households with children, reports of food shortage fell a staggering 42%. 42% from January through April. Wow. A broader gauge of financial instability fell 43%, almost by half, among all households, and frequent anxiety and depression fell by more than 20%. Damn! It turns out when you give people money, well, it helps. Maybe we should, keep doing stuff like that, which would be great. Now, you might be saying, okay, Jeff, look, it's not just the stimulus checks, okay? There was food aid involved, an increase in SNAP benefits. You had the unemployment benefits. It wasn't just all direct checks. All right, true, fair enough. But here's the thing. They found in this analysis, the largest declines in measure of hardship happened to coincide with both the $600 and the $1,400 checks that reached most eligible people in January, and the $1,400 checks, as I said, that reached people in April. H. Luke Schaefer, professor at the University of Michigan, who co-authored the study with a colleague, Patrick Cooney, wrote, "We see an immediate decline among multiple lines of hardship concentrated among the most disadvantaged families." Well, that was the point. You help people and reduce their hardship by giving them money. And it really makes me wonder, well, how much more would we have reduced it from had we actually gone and given people $2,000 a month until the end of the pandemic? How much anxiety and depression, how much more stable would we have made the average American family suffering from COVID-19 and the economic downturn had we sent them $2,000 a month? It would have been amazing. And not only that, but how much money would people have now banked up, ready to spend, now that, the economy is beginning to open up and people are starting to come out? I mean, I think the economy would have took off like a rocket. And yes, guess what? It would have also cost money. I know. I realize that. But remember, the Federal Reserve literally printed up trillions of dollars in, trillions of dollars for the banks, for large corporations. And so I think if you can do that, you can also print up money to help the American families. Okay. So of course they could have given people enough to pay them $2,000 checks and all of that stuff. Hell, we could afford to give people health care in this country. There's so much that we could have done, but instead we gave it to corporations. Yeah. So now understand that this is not a measure of resources, of finite money supply. No, it's really a result of political will. We just didn't have the political will to help the American people versus, of course, corporations. And those of you, of course, might be worried about inflation. Well, you realize inflation happens. It's already been happening. It's happened before the checks. It's happening whether or not you give poor people money or not. And I think one of the big reasons, in my opinion at least, is that you have the existence of mega billionaires that tip the scale. So they've got so much money that, of course, there's a lot of money in circulation, or not in circulation, that's being hoarded by people like Jeff Bezos, CEO of Amazon. They just got that money sitting around, whereas everybody else doesn't. So, you have that reduced level of currency being circulated around, prices will go up. And then, of course, you have low wages. You have all these different things. And so understand that rich people warp the economy in negative ways. That effect happens to be regressive. You have people with less that still end up having to pay more. And again, after that, they end up having even less. So that's why poor people should have more money and not be poor anymore. This is why jobs need to pay more, why minimum wage needs to go up, why there should be a maximum wage, why rich people need to be taxed more, because income inequality turns out when you have high such levels, it ruins the economy. It's bad for the economy. When you have something that is so top heavy, it tends to fall over. Wealth, hoarding it does no good. Think of kind of our currency like a river. Okay, it is designed to flow from the consumer to the business owner to the employee, who is also a consumer, and back around. It's supposed to be this great big cycle. It is not supposed to be hoarded. It is supposed to be spent on goods and services in our economy. And of course, understand that this is a very simplistic explanation of how things are supposed to work. Obviously, it gets a little bit more complicated. There are different factors involved. And obviously, right now, the economy does not work this way. And so as a result, the government needs to step in, provide benefits to people who don't have that money, because this money gets, the rest of the money is being hoarded by mega billionaires. Again, very simplistic, okay? But there's more to the study. Back to that. While the ability of cash payments to reduce hardship might seem obvious, Mr. Schaefer also pointed out that critics of such aid often warn that the needy, they might waste the money. They're going to waste the money. They're going to waste it. They're going to buy drugs. They're going to buy drugs and alcohol with it. They're going to waste the money. Wait, isn't that what you were going to buy it? Use the money on? Or a boat? To park in your other boat? Why is it that rich people can waste their money all day, but when poor person buys an iPhone or buys anything, junk food with food, suddenly everybody's judging them? It's ridiculous to me. Now, Schaefer argued that the size, speed, and variety of the hardship reductions vindicated the use of broad cash relief. While other forms of pandemic aid have been better targeted, some have taken many months to distribute and can be used only for dedicated purposes like food or housing. Cash aid offers families great flexibility to address their most pressing problems, and getting it out quickly is something the government knows how to do. True. Extrapolating from the survey data, he concluded that 5.2 million children had escaped food insufficiency since the start of the year, a figure that he called dramatic. I would agree. 5 million children are now more food secure than they were. That said, the analysis has some detractors, because of course. One of them is Scott Winship, who studies poverty at the American Enterprise Institute. He argued that such hardship would have fallen anyway. Oh yes, we could have not sent people money, and It would have been all right, because tax season. Yeah, it's a tax season, tax credits. That's why we need to cut taxes on the rich, but on everybody, but mostly on the rich. Between the earned income tax credit and the child tax credit, a single parent with 2 children could receive about nearly $8,500 in a year. Now, the thing is, think about that. The people who benefit from these tax credits the most, again, single families, they're likely not making that much money to begin with, $15,000 to $20,000, likely minimum wage. Okay, and then, if you're making that much, all that money has to go to survival anyway. All that money has to go to childcare. Basically, it's not going to lift you out of poverty, that tax credit, and it barely keeps you on the edge. So you're not really getting anywhere because right now, wages are too low, things are too expensive. You have, again, student loan debt, expensive. Housing, incredibly expensive. Rents, super expensive. Childcare, incredibly expensive. Health insurance, if you're lucky enough to have it, even if you have it through work, or if you don't have it through work, like many Americans, millions of Americans can't get it through work because they work in low-wage jobs, well, that's incredibly expensive as well. So that's a problem. So this stimulus payments, this direct cash, has helped these families quite a bit. But Mr. Winship comes back and says, "Oh, it's just not sustainable. They're inefficient, and it's a poor model. Quote, it's not sustainable to just give people enough cash to eliminate poverty. And in the long run, it can have negative consequences by reducing the incentives to work and marry. That's it. Just get a job and get married. That's all you have to do. You don't need money from the government." Bullshit. Look, there's no evidence that giving people direct aid during a pandemic, by the way, you forgot that there's a pandemic there was a pandemic going on, right? And it is still going on. There's no evidence, though, that giving people money leads to reduced work. They looked at UBI programs. In fact, Finland ran a 2-year UBI study back in 2017 and 2018, during which the government gave 2,000 unemployed people aged 25 to 58 monthly payments with no strings attached. All right? The payments equaled about $700 a month, roughly. Now remember, in Finland, you also get free healthcare through the government, through taxation. And so you don't have to worry about paying for health insurance there, as well as education and things like that. And so it's already a pretty generous welfare state. And then you're adding a $700 stipend on top. Now, the $700 a month also was not means tested. It was unconditional. So everybody who got the money, who could get the money. And that would be everybody, no matter if you had a good job or had no job. So now it found out that, another part of it. So you know how the welfare system works here in America. You get a job or you start making more money. For example, on food stamps, you start making more money, your food stamp benefits gradually get lower and lower and lower until it cuts off completely as you make more money or work more hours, right? Welfare is kind of the same way. You pass a certain threshold, you get a job, you lose the benefits. And if your job's, for example, a minimum wage job, well, you're going to end up either at the same place that you were in welfare, except you're not on welfare anymore. But you're still you're still poor. You're still broke. So you're not really anywhere else than just working for somebody. Now, that might even set you back even further, because then if you're working and you're a single mother, well, you got to pay for childcare. Childcare, once again, prohibitively expensive. And then, of course, there's transportation to get to that job. And there's the possibility of working odd hours. And then, of course, there's no health insurance, things like that. And so you might end up getting a job and getting behind and making more off welfare than you would from a job. Now, obviously, the conservative solution to that is let's just eliminate welfare. No, the real solution is raise wages, provide childcare, provide childcare subsidies, things like that. That would actually help people get ahead. But again, I'm kind of losing the plot here. Going back, right? Now, the Finland study was nationwide, and they found out that people who were given free money didn't work less. They actually worked more. The study compared the employment and well-being of basic income recipients against a control group of 173,000 people who were on unemployment. Between November 2017 and October 2018, people on basic income worked an average of 78 days, 6 days longer than those on unemployment benefits. So it actually worked. They worked more. They did better. There was a greater increase in employment for people, especially in families with children, as well as those whose first language wasn't Finnish or Swedish. So I'm talking immigrants. Now, they don't quite know why the research is in Finland, but it helped immigrants and it helped families with children. When surveyed, the people who received the universal basic income instead of regular unemployment benefits reported better financial well-being, mental health, cognitive functioning, as well as higher levels of confidence in the future. So apparently, this seems to have a lot more good effects to giving people money. And it doesn't destroy employment. And actually, really, you could just, instead of calling it a UBI, you could just call this like a freedom dividend or something like that. Whatever you want to call it, right? To appeal to conservatives. Because and actually, it's not just a gimmick. It's not just a name. It actually does work. And depending on how the program is structured, of course. There are some people with UBI programs that would absolutely, completely replace current existing welfare programs. That's not what we're talking about here, okay? Just for clarification, okay? But here's the thing, okay? It does enhance your freedom. Freedom to find a better job that fits well with your life and your schedule, or to get an education, to get a better paying job, and generally it just makes your life better, happier. But of course, there's a cost. Rich people might have to pay more in taxes, and it turns out rich people will not accept that. We can't have that. Remember, the American Enterprise Institute, where this man works, well, that is a Koch-funded conservative think tank. Okay, now it was designed. These think tanks, part of the Koch network, they were designed with one goal in mind: to make sure that the discourse is driven towards one end. That end is to reduce taxes for the Koch brothers. Now, Koch brother. Yeah. I know, rich people wanting to lower their own taxes. Weird. Very strange. What a coincidence. Now, again, these are the people in power who issue scientific data because they want to save their own billions of dollars. Again, they'll still be incredibly wealthy if you tax them more. And also remember that these people are so rich, they have so much money saved that they could ever spend in their entire life. And what do? They just hoard it. They hoard it. There's more, again, there's nothing they could have. There's nothing they can have in this world with the billions of dollars that they have saved up. But they hoard it like Smaug. Like a dragon sitting on its gold. That's what they do. And the reason they do that is because they think, no, I deserve it. I earned it. It's mine. It's mine. I don't think you deserve it. Oh, hell no. And that's really the core argument that conservatives use. And I hear it all the time. Well, why should I have to share my wealth with those people? And those people usually mean poor black people, of course. They're just going to waste it. You're going to waste it on poor people. Yes. Oh, yes. Poor people having a better quality of life, stability, shelter, and food. What a waste. What a waste of these people. I'd rather have a 12th yacht. Yes. Or a boat that I can park in my other boat while I'm at my 3,000 square foot mansion, I do declare. Those poor people, They're immoral, and they're so lazy. Why should they get any of my money? Yes. All they want are the handouts, yes. You know what's funny? You know who loves handouts more than anybody? Rich people. Because they get them all the time. Subsidies, big corporations, tax incentives, tax breaks, the lowering of their taxes. And of course, they also want to be worshipped. A lot of them do. Because they think that they are better than everyone else. They want those tax breaks. They want those special rules that in some cases allow billionaires to pay less than middle-class Americans. So, no, Mr. Winship can take his opinion, his study, and shove it up his ass. Along with his, of course, rich masters. Because it turns out giving money to people is good for people. Giving money to people works. And it turns out people like it. And I think we should do more of it. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.